everybody. Welcome back to Empire Soccer Report. Just myself, James Birle, today. No guest on the show this week, but still quite a lot of Red Bull New York news to get into. Another exciting match last weekend and another exciting one to look forward to this coming Sunday, March 8th. Of course, the Red Bulls are off to a 2-0 start. The Michael Bradley era is flying, and it's some kids behind the wheel. Once again, the dynamic trio of Adri Mehmeti, Julian Hall, and Matty Dos Santos continues to grab headlines around the league, and for good reason. The team is playing beautiful football, winning football, and now they have a chance against last place CF Montreal to extend their start to the season and for the first time potentially win their first three outright in the MLS calendar. Some news across the lines, though, for Red Bull New York, not just on the pitch, but some more player news as well that we've got to get into. Most pressingly, this was announced just before kickoff on Saturday by Pipe Sierra out of Colombia, and then was echoed by our friend Joe Pantorno from AM New York. But young Colombian center back Julian Bazan expected to sign with the club. He's on his way to the area. He completed his medical through the Red Bull organization with Red Bull Bragantino in Brazil. The Deportivo Pereira center back has 21 appearances, 24 with the Colombian U20. He's going to bring some decent international experience to the side. Certainly a talented center back, a young player that will slot in. Initially, it said he was expected to start alongside Robert Volader, but considering Volader has not seen any minutes in the first two matches for Red Bull New York, Bazan, I think, is probably going to slot in next to either Justin Che or Dylan Nealis, who have both been excellent. While it's been much talked about that they're playing out of position, the two natural right backs have done very, very well in the center defense, particularly Che. I've been impressed with him. A player who was once touted very, very highly in U.S. soccer circles, went over to Bayern as a center back and kind of found a home at right back with Braunby, but didn't really get into the team so much. Comes back to New York, come back to MLS. Of course, he's FC Dallas Academy product, but back with MLS in New York now and has been excellent for the first two matches. And he got that honor with the MLS Team of the Match Day recognition for Match Day 2 in his performances during that clean sheet against the New England Revolution. Serge Ngoma has been in Birmingham for some time, the Red Bull New York homegrown winger. We'll see if that deal has been fully announced yet. Of course, it's been speculated, now for at least a couple weeks at this point that Goma was leaving the club and Birmingham being the most likely destination for him. He's been in Birmingham, spotted for a few weeks. The announcement's been teased. It hasn't been fully announced yet. This could be the best thing for Serge Ngoma's career. Just to think about the type of player that he is, came through at 16 years old. I mean, sound familiar? Of course, Red Bull always has young players, always tries to prop players up through their academy. Goma, a very talented prospect, still only 20 years old, scored in his opening season, but unfortunately just has been marred with injuries, injury after injury after injury for the poor Serge Goma. Has not really had the opportunity to get consistent playing time and get consistent playing time where he's trusted with responsibility on the pitch. And that's what he'll get if he can stay healthy in Birmingham. He'll be one of the premier attackers for that side. And I think it's something that could absolutely be beneficial for his career. He certainly has the quality to play in Major League Soccer, just hasn't really had that opportunity. Missed most of 2023 with a hamstring injury, missed a lot of 2024 with a knee injury, and just hasn't been able to fully build back that fitness and be able to sneak into the starting 11. Look, if you're not going to be healthy in Major League Soccer, unless you are a former world-class player coming back from Europe, it is very unlikely that you are going to be able to lock down a position to make it your own. And Serge Goma was just never going to get that opportunity, at least currently in New York with the players ahead of him. It's the right move for his career, and I hope that he finds success. And we're still talking about Serge Goma as one of the more exciting young players to come out of Red Bull's academy and to come out of any MLS academy, because he really does have that type of ability, the North Plainfield, New Jersey native. Matty Dos Santos signed his homegrown MLS contract. He's going to be with the club for some time now. Dos Santos, it's a great move for him personally and for the club. He's been excellent in the first two matches since turning a lot of heads with the Red Bulls Academy. Of course, the 2023 U15 team that Julian Hall won the MLS Next Cup MVP. The U15s won the MLS Next Cup championship. That team included the likes of Mehmeti, Hall, Dos Santos, of course, Tanner Rossborough as well. But ever since, Dos Santos has continued to climb the ladder, was excellent under Michael Bradley for Red Bulls 2 last season, and their quest for the MLS Next Pro Cup has been good in the first two matches of the MLS season. And we can't forget, he kind of burst onto the scene midway through preseason and earned his spot at the left back position. And it hasn't looked like belonging to anybody else since. He's been excellent. He deserves this contract. And for one, I'm looking forward to watching him for the rest of this season and potentially for many more seasons down the line. So there's Matty Dos Santos sorted out. Of course, there were some new changes to Sports Illustrated Stadium that were debuted in the home opener over the weekend. The SI ticket platform had some struggles. Of course, in the early days of its app, you cannot download tickets straight to your mobile wallet. You have to go through the app, which I think made things a little bit more complicated. The servers were down for about 15 minutes. For a first go around, it's never a good look when things go wrong. But as far as things going wrong, I think a 15-minute outage was maybe on the shorter side for sure. And then, of course, that caused the lines to get into the stadium to be halted temporarily, and people had trouble finding their way in. And when you couple that with the NJ transit schedules, which have been affected because of the maintenance that is required for those trains, and the path being down, as it often is, unfortunately, during match days, weekend times the schedule already runs less frequently than it does during a work day. Then you couple that with the lack of transport, the closure of one of the parking lots in front of the stadium because of the weather potentially causing things to sink into the gravel. That's never a good sign. It wasn't a great crowd in terms of attendance at Red Bull Arena, but as it always is, the fans showed up, the fans were loud, and made it an enjoyable atmosphere for the players, and they turned up in what ended up being a 1-0 win. Of course, tons of different things around the concourse. I unfortunately don't get the chance to experience so much of the what makes the blood pump around Sports Illustrated Stadium, since I'm generally stuck in the press areas during matches, always busy. But from what I could tell, fewer food options in terms of stalls around the stadium, so maybe a little bit more walking room, which is always a good thing. It gets pretty tight around Sports Illustrated Stadium, even when it's not the biggest of crowds. And then, of course, the automated systems where you go in and you place things you place your card down, and the cameras track what you purchase when you take out of it, sort of like an Amazon Go situation. I've heard mixed things about it. Again, I haven't experienced it fully, but we'll continue to iron these things out as the season goes on. Things are, it's always good to change, but I heard Daniel Rebane say it well. Just because things are changing doesn't mean it is a good thing, of course. You can't just change things to change things. And I guess the stadium experience we'll get a clearer picture on as games continue to happen at home. And, of course, the next one is at home Sunday, March the 8th at 4:30 p.m. kickoff against CF Montreal. Let's talk about the recent match against the Revs before we get into the match preview there. Another one-goal victory. But another chance in which the Red Bulls, I felt, looked superior from start to finish. They had control over the game. 64% possession, I believe, is the figure. Those numbers would have sounded foreign just a couple seasons ago, just a couple matches ago, honestly. Just go back to last season. Not a team that typically dominates in the possession category, Red Bull New York, but they had done that in the first two matches. And while they didn't look as dangerous against the Revs as they did regularly throughout that game against Orlando City, I think it's worth mentioning that Orlando team looked out of sorts, to say the least. And while they didn't get the win against Inter Miami, they looked much, much better in match day 2 than they did in match day 1. But the Red Bulls continued to play with their principles. I thought, the fast, quick desire to get numbers forward, to control players in the half, in the opposing half, that is, really was evident. They didn't have as much danger, especially down the wings, as they did against Orlando City. New England packed it in really tight, particularly on corners. I know this has been mentioned, but they would bring all 11 players to defend in their own penalty area, maybe one player floating on the top of the penalty area. Contrast that with the way the Red Bulls defended corners. They know they don't have a lot of height, so they sent their 3 attackers all the way at the halfway line to potentially counter, and it caused New England to have to only attack with 4 or 5 players in the area for corners. I mean, that's just a little read of how each team approached the match, because New England, I think, might have found the blueprint to play against this Red Bulls team, at least this version of the Red Bulls team that we've been able to see early on this season under Michael Bradley, this very quick, aggressive, attacking minded style, while still, maintaining possession of the ball, still maintaining control of the match, dictating the pace of play. And I can't think of a player more integral to that style of play, that system, than the holding midfielder Adrian Mehmeti, who continues to turn heads with how his poise, his ability to pick apart the teams in front of him, to find wingers, to find the number 9 in front of him, to find the 8s. It's a type of passing holding midfielder that I don't think the Red Bulls have had in quite some time, and he's been a breath of fresh air. I don't think this system really works without him in there. No disrespect to Gustav Berggren, but as it stands, Adrian Mehmeti is completely undroppable for this team, and that continued to show throughout the match against the Revolution. And it wasn't a busy first half. Other than a third-minute chance from Justin Che that Matt Turner had to make a full extension save on. It was nice to see every player on the Red Bulls pushed into the attacking third because New England were sitting so deep. There's the content to have the ball and be a little bit risky with it. I think I've enjoyed watching. It's presented some brilliant football. It's presented some exciting football as well, which I think Red Bulls fans have been begging for some time. Justin Che let one fly from 25 to 30 yards out. Turner made a good save. Griffin Yao had a half chance later in that half for the Revolution that Ethan Horvath was able to parry aside. A couple of different handball shots for penalties that ultimately I thought in real time could have been a penalty, but looking back definitely were not, and the referees got that right. I thought it was interesting to see Ronald Donkor come off at halftime. We later learned that was because he was dealing with some sort of a knock. We'll see if he's going to be available on Sunday against CF Montreal. I see him as an equally as integral piece to this midfield as Adrian Mehmeti. I'm not sure if there's a player that properly fits what Ronald Donkor does behind him in the squad, and we kind of saw that with Andy Rojas coming on for the second half. For me, Berggren is kind of splitting time at the 6 with Mehmeti, right? They're the two deepest sitting midfielders. Donkor is the shuttling number 8, and he's been fantastic over the 2 matches he's played so far. Unfortunately, had to come off. He did have a yellow card as well in this game against the Revolution. Rojas came in and I thought struggled, particularly defensively, but you could see his value when carrying the ball in transition. When the Red Bulls did win it, he was a good outlet to go forward. Could he find the passes the same way that players like Berggren, Mehmeti, and especially Donkor have been able to do in that role? Honestly, no, but I do think that's why he looks like he could be such a dangerous piece on the wing. When he has space in front of him, when he's running at the defense, he's proven to be that interesting a player. He always makes clever runs, especially off the left. We saw that with Red Bulls 2 last year. So I hope to see him more there and potentially to grow into this role in central midfield, because there's going to be less time for him to play on the wings. That much is for sure. The space is there in midfield. And we've mentioned that it could be an opportunity for the Red Bulls to look for more players on the transfer market to help bolster this midfield. We'll see if the injury to Donkor keeps him out on Sunday. Hopefully not for the Red Bulls case, because he is a special player in that role. Of course, though, the goal came in the 51st minute, short corner routine that the Red Bulls have been running a lot. Honestly, probably to do with the fact that they don't have a whole lot of aerial ability in this team. The tallest player, I believe, out in the field is Justin Che at about 6'1". Ethan Horvath is a big guy, but he's in goal. He's not going to be attacking any headers unless they're down 1-0 late in a match. So I thought the tactic to have Forsberg come short, have Dos Santos overlap, it's not something that's entirely groundbreaking, but what was groundbreaking was the nature in which that goal was scored. 17-year-old to 16-year-old to 17-year-old to the back of the net, and not just to the back of the net, but to the back of the net in a header over some experienced MLS center backs, past the former U.S. men's national team number 1 goalkeeper in Matt Turner, a goalkeeper who still has a claim to the number 1 spot before the World Cup starts this summer. We'll see about that. But then it was about continuing those principles. The Red Bulls looked like they maybe could have added 1 or 2 later in the half, but the Revs had some chances, the most glaring of which fell between Griffin Yao and Jackson Ewell, who was a second-half substitution, and he didn't really catch that cross right. He was wide open in front of the goal. Adrian Mehmeti was the one big mistake he made in the match was he didn't track the right runner, but fortunately for the Red Bulls, Ewell scuffed the shot ever so slightly. Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy was there to flick it over the top of goal, and that was that for the biggest scare of the night from New England. But other than that, it's the Red Bulls game. They were in charge. They never really, apart from that moment, looked like they were going to lose that match. It was the same takeaway I had against Orlando. Even when they were under siege, they never looked quite like losing. Throughout the team, excellent performances. Ethan Horvath, yet again, gets Player of the Match award from Apple TV. That's 2 for 2 from the new Red Bulls keeper, his first clean sheet. He does it in front of the home fans. Justin Che, again, excellent. Dylan Nealis, again, excellent. Just mentioned Marshall Ruddy. He looked great both as a right back and later in the game as a left back. Of course, Dos Santos, we mentioned already as being worthy of that new contract. Interesting, very interesting for me that the second half substitutions that they made to bolster the defense did not include Omar Valencia. He's kind of fallen down to perhaps third on the left back chart when Masanka Bungi comes in. He's expected to have some chances to play. Valencia started the 2025 season as a real key piece, 5 assists early on in the year. Just seemed like he was going to have that left back position locked down. And when Marcelo Morales and Raheem Edwards left the club in the offseason, it certainly felt like it was going to be Valencia's position to lose. And unfortunately for him, he hasn't really gotten the opportunity to strut his stuff other than a late second half stint against Orlando. Instead, they bring off Dos Santos, and the left back position's open, but rather than going with Valencia, Michael Bradley chooses to bring on Juan Mina, who has had a couple of good second half cameos now to his name. And Marshall Ruddy goes over to the left and looks just as good as he did on the right. Mina, I thought, was solid enough to warrant another substitute performance from him. So for now, I think Valencia is just the odd man out in terms of getting minutes on the back line. We mentioned the midfield change. Donkor came off for Rojas. Rojas, I think, and rightfully so, Bradley recognized the defensive desire of the team in the very late stages of the second half and decided to bring off Rojas, who didn't see a full second 45, for the likes of Gustav Berggren to bring more stability into the midfield. I think it was the right choice. Interesting to go with Rojas at the start of the half as opposed to Berggren, but I really do believe he sees Berggren properly as a 6 and didn't want to handcuff the midfield. Remember, it was 0-0 at halftime. By going extra defensive, especially when New England was already content to sit as far back as they did. Forsberg, doesn't seem to be pulling the strings as much as he did in previous seasons. Again, and there's benefits and negatives to this. Of course, he's playing a little bit deeper in the midfield. We haven't seen him really pick up the ball off center backs before like he has been doing this season. And while, he's had that fantastic assist against Orlando, he doesn't necessarily have to be the guy who's relied upon to get all of every single goal contribution possible. In a way, Choupo-Moting and Forsberg, not that they showed any signs of not being up for it. They were run into the ground last year. They had to be, right? There was just no choice but to play Choupo-Moting 90 minutes every game and Forsberg 90 minutes every game. They didn't have players around them to really impress in a way that the players around them have been doing this season. So while Forsberg maybe hasn't been able to get his name onto the score sheet as noticeably or carve out chances as regularly as we have seen in previous years, I think once things start to open up around him and he can fill in the space, we're really going to start to see his impact once again. He's still, the heartbeat of this Red Bulls attack in many different ways. But the energy often comes from the likes of Donkor and especially the wingers. Cade Cowell, George Ruvalcaba, that is, were absolutely lively and active throughout this match, continuing to push the issues down the right and left wing side, respectively. But I thought New England did a good job of making sure that they didn't carve out as much space in behind as they did against Orlando, because that was really what opened up the Orlando City defense. The Revolution were much, much more wary. They were much deeper than the Red Bulls' previous opponent. And I think they dealt with some of the speed that Ruvalcaba and Cowell offer. There were a couple chances. Ruvalcaba could have dug his way in behind in the early goings of the first half. Cowell, I thought, same thing. And then Ruvalcaba had that great chance that was later ruled offside in the second half and forced a ridiculous save out of Matt Turner. Good to see that he still got it. And we got a great, U.S. national team duo of goalkeepers early in the season. Turner versus Horvath, that was the 1 and 2 for an era of this U.S. national team, the lead up to the 2022 World Cup, and then the 2 years post-tense under Greg Berhalter. Those guys were the 1 and 2. It wasn't until Mauricio Pochettino took over and then the lead into the 2025 Gold Cup that position really became Matt Freese's. So it was a very fun goalkeeper matchup to watch on Saturday. And Ethan Horvath was an absolute pro when I asked him about playing against Ethan Horvath and just what it meant to get that victory, get that clean sheet in his first match in front of the home fans at Sports Illustrated Stadium.
Ethan, clean sheet in the first match in front of the fans. Just what are you thinking?
No, it's good. Clean sheets are always nice, but Jack made a great play. Dylan and Justin were making great plays. So, not just for myself, but for the defense and the team. Because, like I said, we want to score goals, but also we want to be strong defensively. So, to get a clean sheet in the first game at home is very important.
Ethan, you've crossed paths with Matt Turner many times at the national team and in the UK. Just what did it feel like lining up against him today?
Strange. It was. I don't know how many years we spent together and how many camps we've spent together, but it was nice to line up against him, just to say hi again, and it was very strange, but it was also nice.
Any trash talk or just friendly?
No, friendly. No, we get along, and just friendly chat. Yeah.
Thanks, Ethan.
So that was Ethan Horvath chatting about the importance of a clean sheet, the nice opportunity to play against a teammate in Matt Turner. Also got the chance to catch up with Justin Che after the match, spoke about his influence on the back line and just how things have been going so far this season.
First match in front of the home fans, and it's a clean sheet. Just what's going through your mind right now?
We love it, man. Home opener, my home debut for Red Bulls as well. So I'm just excited to have 3 points and, to keep the momentum going.
A unique tactic to defend corners. Just as a center back, just tell us what that is behind that idea and just how you guys have been able to defend corners that way.
Yeah, I think, we push a lot of guys forward. Yeah, there's a risk behind it, but at the same time, I think Mike and the coaching staff have a lot of confidence in us as a back line to deal with it. Ethan in the goal as well to communicate. It's kind of a little bit of a zonal thing, but if the ball comes in your position, your area, the most important thing is that you can deal with it in the right way. You go for the ball, you attack it, you clear it, and then to have that momentum to push the game forward offensively after with the numbers that we have, I think is a strong suit of ours.
And you're still obviously a very young player, but what does it mean to you and the other guys in the dressing room to look around and see guys like Audrey, Julian, and Maddie Dos Santos, teenagers, pitching in and having performances the way that they have been?
Yeah, I think that's how football is nowadays, younger and younger. So as long as they do their part on the pitch, they put the game, they put the performance in, that's what matters. So having them and their qualities along us, I think age is just a number. And like I said, performance is what matters at the end of the day. So.
And thoughts on the home crowd, the atmosphere for your debut at Sports Illustrated Stadium?
That was awesome, man. I couldn't have asked for a better home debut. And 3 points, a shutout. Happy with it, man.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin. Hope you're doing well. Two-parter here. Just what unique challenges does the Montreal attack present, and how has match preparation been in training this week? And of course, Matty Dos Santos got his MLS contract. Just what is the group thought for the youngster there?
Yeah, I just want to, the group and I have already congratulated Maddie. First professional contract is always, it's always a special one. So it's something he should embrace, he should cherish it. In terms of the game this weekend, I think alongside the team, we've had a good training week. We've studied Montreal, and we've taken it day by day just to make sure that we're ready for the weekend, for their, style on and off the ball. I think it's going to be a good game. Montreal has a lot of young players, so a lot of players with talent. You have to expect the unexpected and just take it step by step.
Thanks again, Justin, for doing this. You received MLS Team of the Match Day recognition last weekend. Congratulations for that. Just how has it felt for you and your confidence level to have hit the ground running and find so much success so quickly in your return to Major League Soccer?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good feeling. I am mostly focused on the team, honestly, just getting the 3 points and winning the games on the weekend. I think, of course, Team of the Week is a bonus, and it's something that it's a nice feeling to see. But most importantly, my focus and main objective is just to focus on the team, focus on my performance on the weekend, and whatever comes after that, it's just a bonus, So, yeah.
Thank you for the time, Michael. Just sticking on the theme of young talent here, Julian Hall has shown an incredible level of maturity in the first two matches of the season, not just because he scored 3 goals, but because in the way he scored. those 3 goals, has been able to sniff out dangerous chances. Didn't have to do anything individually spectacular to get 3 goals, but has been in the right place at the right time. What do you attribute that match game intelligence to for Julian?
Yeah, look, when it comes to Jules, we're all really, really excited for him that now at the beginning of the season he's been able to get some goals. Obviously, the goals help us win games, and that part is really important. Goals are really important for any attacking player, especially a young attacking player that now is trying to establish himself and grow confidence. And so that part is awesome. Honestly, the part of Julian's game and his what a lot of people don't even see, or what goes unnoticed, is the work against the ball, the pressing, the running, the sprinting, the chasing from top down to make life miserable for the other team's midfielders. He has been relentless in those ways, and so that part makes such a difference. When you're a team that wants to be aggressive and wants to press and wants to go after the other team as high on the field as possible, you need attacking players, the front line, to lead that and to give the impulse and to be ready in every moment to chase and follow their press and just go and go and go, because that sends the signal to everybody else on our team. That makes it clear for everybody what we're doing. And so that part of Julian's game and his the work and his commitment and his just relentlessness, that part has made a huge difference for us.
So now that we're all caught up to speed with the media workings behind Red Bull New York, let's preview this upcoming match against CF Montreal. It's first in the East against last in the East, at least by the time of recording this. Of course, some matches will kick off on Saturday, and the Red Bulls could fall from first to lower in the standings. But after 2 matches, they are firmly in first place with 2 wins. They could go for their first 3-win start to the season against CF Montreal. And looking at the opposition, this is the best chance they may ever get to break that record. Montreal are in last place in Major League Soccer. They have a -8 goal differential with 0 goals scored through their first 2 matches. They opened up the season with a 5-0 drubbing against San Diego FC. That did include a bit of a bogus red card to Tomas Aviles, who came over in the offseason from Inter Miami. This is a pretty new CF Montreal team, 11 players out, 7 players in, but it's still not one that really has a whole lot to write home about. Not a whole lot of big names jumping off the page here. In the attack, they've got some quality. Prince Owusu is a decent striker. Ivan Jaime, I don't think they've found a home for him in terms of what position he's best at, but he's a player who has some match-winning ability. On the right wing, Sinchuk, the Ukrainian, has looked pretty decent, and Dagerdan Torhalson, the Icelandic player, formerly really a fullback naturally. He's been playing as a winger for Montreal this year. He's looked decent as well. That front four, has a punch packed within them, but we haven't seen it yet. Prince Owusu's just managed 1 shot with 0.07 expected goals through 2 games. He just hasn't been given any service, and that's kind of been the story from Montreal over the past couple seasons. Marco Donadel took over last year, and unfortunately for him, hasn't been given a team that he can really improve. Honestly, it'd be a tall task for any manager to turn that team into something better than the sum of their parts. They average about 0.79 points per game under Donadel, which again is hard to pin on him. They've had a 6 wins, 10 draws, 20 losses record since he took over as the manager. In the center defense, they've got some depth. I will say that Jalen Neal, had a good moment coming up as a young center back prospect. Now kind of looks like and average to slightly above average MLS center back dealing with injury. Efrain Morales, young Bolivian center back, and Tomas Aviles, who missed the last match against Chicago Fire, a 3-0 loss. He'll probably be back in the lineup after that controversial red card. Whether he plays next to Morales or Neal, I think is a bit of a toss-up. And then Brian Vera, who is nominally a center back, but has been playing as a left back. He came from Real Salt Lake in the offseason. Alexander Guboglo, I think, will probably get the start at right back. He got the start in match day 2 in favor of Hidalgo. For me, Guboglo is an exciting young prospect. So a lot of youth on this team. Of course, Wiki Carmona is a former New York Red Bulls player, or excuse me, Red Bull New York player. I don't know if he'll get the start. I think he could get the start just because it's his return to Harrison, New Jersey. We'll see what happens there. Probably he'd start either as the number 10 or off to the left in favor of one of the wingers. I'm not sure where he would fit into the team. He may get a start, he may not. And then in goal, Thomas Guillier, who since Jonathan Serrois was transferred to FC Dallas over the offseason, he's got sole position of the goalkeeper ranks. And yes, 8 goals conceded in 2 matches doesn't look like a great record for the goalkeeper, but it'd be really, really hard to pin this on him. And then the central midfielders, Victor Loturi has had a tough first couple matches, 24-year-old Canadian. Samuel Piette, club legend. I don't know if he'll have the legs to keep up with this midfield, especially if Ronald Donkor is healthy. So I imagine it's going to be Loturi and Matty Longstaff to start the game. Longstaff has looked like himself, a decent shuttling number 8 in this league. Has unfortunately been bound to some pretty unsuccessful teams in his time in MLS with Toronto and now with CF Montreal. Imagine what Tomas Aviles was thinking when he found out that he was going to be leaving Messi's Inter Miami to go to CF Montreal. Probably not the most excited. I do think Torhalson and Hanadi Sinchuk have shown life of being potentially dangerous on the wing. Jaime, they've got to find a home for him. Can he be a number 10? Should they move him to the wing? Should they play with a midfield trio without a proper number 10 and defend more carefully? I think that might be what they have to do and just see if they can nick teams away on the counter. Again, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Matty Dos Santos has gotten that contract done, so I imagine he will start at the left back position. The center backs, I don't think you can change. Justin Che, Dylan Elis have been spectacular to this point. Horvath, of course, has been as good as advertised. The midfield trio, I think maybe if Donkor is unavailable to go, maybe we see Berggren from the start, maybe Rojas from the start. It'll be interesting to see how Bradley evaluates the opening there. Donkor, a huge, huge piece of this team. He kind of has been setting the rhythm, especially in that midfield. Mehmeti is, not the quickest player on his feet, but he reads the game and understands it well. Donkor does a lot of that mobility that Forsberg and Mehmeti just aren't equipped to be doing. So that's a big loss if he's not available in the match. And of course, Forsberg is going to be playing with 2 of them. And then the front 3, I don't think you can change it. Cowell on the right, Ruvalcaba on the left, and Julian Hall tied for the league lead in goals after 2 matches. Julian Hall, yes, that Julian Hall is going to start at the number 9 position. He's going to keep Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting on the bench. It's not been entire 90-minute performances from Red Bull New York. They've left goals on the table in both of these matches, particularly against Orlando. This is the best opportunity that they will have to not only start to cash in on some of those opportunities against this lowly CF Montreal team, but to have that 90-minute performance, one where they don't falter in the last 15 or so minutes. And a lot of that was New England's approach to the game. They were content with being behind the ball until the 65th, 60th, 70th minute. They really start to kick into second gear and force New York, to make some tough decisions on the back line, make some tough plays, have to put out fires. But Orlando pushed the entire second half in that game and forced New York to be on the back foot, and they still found a way to get forward, create chances, carve out space for themselves. I think Montreal will probably sit deeper like New England did, but this is a chance for the Red Bulls to really show that they can get that third goal, that they can find that extra pass in the final third. And they'll have a lot of the ball in this game. They will have a lot of opportunities to break down the team that's in front of them. I don't think it'll be that easy. I think that defense is probably a little harder to break down than even it would say on paper for Montreal. I know 8 goals in 2 matches doesn't really scream confidence in that realm, but you have to remember that they were down to 10 men against San Diego and have and dealt without their now premier center back against Chicago Fire. I don't think either of those things will hinder them this time around, but the Red Bulls should be a much better team. They should be much better prepared. I'm going to say a 3-0 victory to Red Bull New York. I don't mean to continue the suffering of CF Montreal fans. It just seems like, and I know Red Bull fans can relate to this, just it seems like their ownership, the management has just checked out a little bit. The Saputo family feels like they're putting more eyes on Bologna at the moment, and just there's been a lot of disinterest in what's going on in Montreal, which is a shame because Montreal is such a wonderful city. When that team is good, and even when that team's not been so good in the past, their support is excellent. Their fans do great. And it's just unfortunate to see what's happened to that club. But of course, it's football. It's Major League Soccer. There are always a myriad of ways in which things could go wrong. And if Red Bull New York's history is any indication of what that might look like, well, I think the best advice for this young, impressionable Red Bulls roster is don't get ahead of yourselves. It is 2 matches in. You have to go improve what you can during this 90 minutes against CF Montreal, or people are going to start putting out putting you on fraud watch, so to speak, as the kids would say it these days. If they can't get it done over 90 minutes against CF Montreal, I think some of the hype starts to die down a little bit, but we'll see what these young guys are capable of. I see it as a 3-0 victory for Red Bull New York. No guests on the show this week, but we still had to get the news out there. An exciting time in Red Bull New York land, of course. They go for 3 wins to start the season for the first time in club history against CF Montreal on Sunday, March 8th at 4:30 p.m. That one's at Sports Illustrated Stadium. I will be there for Empire Soccer Report. That match can be streamed on Apple TV. Thank you guys so much for listening and for watching. Red Bulls again take on CF Montreal this coming Sunday after 2 wins to start the year. Let's see if they make it 3 in a row for the first time ever. Thanks for watching.